here we are, back in Dundrum, County Down, where I was born and raised. And then just here is our family home. This is where my mum still lives. This is where my dad was born. That was my bedroom just up there. That was also the room that my dad was born in, and his brother, and about 3 uncles and 4 cousins. So I was basically living in a delivery ward and I didn't know it. In here is Brennan's shop on the main street.
Well, Paddy, good to see you. Are you home for long?
Well, Kevin, how you getting on?
All good, all good. You calling in for a wee 99 here?
Are you still doing the same offer? Buy one ice cream, get a bottle of gin for free? No?
In your dreams. In your dreams.
Right, good to see you. I'll be in a sec. Cheers. And this is the quay where we used to keep our boat. This is where we'd come down on a summer's evening and we'd water ski out there, and my dad would tow the boat. And just here is where my dad's office would have been. Just there. That's where he was killed, where he was shot whenever I was 16. And just down there, opposite where his office would be, that's the beach where last summer I taught my 2 boys how to fly a kite for the first time. One day I'll tell them all about their granda and what happened to them, but just not yet. It's good to be home. Hello, I'm Patrick Kielty and this is Borderline, my postcard from the edge of the Union, coming to you from Dundrum, County Down, with a live Northern Ireland audience. Who, by the sounds of things, have been drinking since, let me check my watch, last March. Yes. Tonight, I'm honoured to be addressing Radio 4 listeners from my hometown, a mythical place at the edge of the Union that's both British and Irish, without being in Britain or in Ireland. This place is complicated. How complicated? Well, that's what my gorgeous Northern Ireland audience is here for tonight. No one can explain it better to you than my peeps who, due to COVID regulations and personal restraining orders, join me this evening from the anonymity of their own front rooms. It means that they're more than happy to tell you where they think this place is actually part of. So, folks, let me know where we are tonight. Welcome to Dundrum, County Down, the United Kingdom. Welcome to Dundrum, County Down, Ireland. And that's why Brexit has all gone so smoothly here, hasn't it? Yes. And thanks to the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the only man capable of uniting the Tory party and Ireland at the same time, we now have not 1, but 2 borders here in Northern Ireland. Yay! What a deal, 2 for the price of 1. I know. It's a solution we've all been waiting for, isn't it? Why just partition Ireland 100 years ago and piss off every Catholic in the place when you can now partition the UK and piss off every Protestant as well? So now we have a land border with the Republic of Ireland, which allows for free movement of people, animals and goods. And just out my window here, we have our shiny new Irish sea border as well. Yes, a new sea border that also allows for the free movement of people, but because we still have to abide by EU rules here for food and agriculture, thankfully protects us from more dangerous contraband from Britain, like Cumberland sausages and sunflower seeds. Laugh if you want, but you know it's for your own good. We all know the dangers of sausage smuggling. The DUP has been warning us about it for years. With so many borders to choose from these days, it really is hard to know which one's our favourite, isn't it? It's like being asked which of your children you hate the most. There is, of course, one thing that everyone in Northern Ireland agrees about a border in the middle of the Irish Sea. We'd all quite like to see Boris Johnson put the foundations in for it. Now, if you're finding any of this difficult to follow, well, that's because this place is difficult. This place is different. even though we were always told we were just the same as everywhere else. Margaret Thatcher always told us Northern Ireland was just as British as her constituency in Finchley. And you know, growing up here in the 1970s, this place really did feel like Finchley, didn't it? If anyone's listening tonight in leafy suburban Finchley, I'm sure you too will remember the parachute regiment pointing rifles at you and your mum as she popped into M&S to pick up a quiche. But what about the time the IRA blew the bejesus out of every shop on Finchley High Road because one of those shops were happy to serve the police? Do you remember that, Finchley? And yet, believe it or not, Dundrum was a pretty great place to grow up. We had a 10th century castle behind our garden, we had 4 miles of beach just out our front door, we had a nature reserve at one end of the village and a football pitch at the other. For a kid, it was heaven. There was only one small problem. We'd all been told by the Reverend Ian Paisley that Catholics didn't go to heaven. In Dundrum, we also didn't have a primary school. We had 2 primary schools. Did anybody else have that fabulous 2-for-1 deal growing up in Northern Ireland? Yeah? Yeah. 2 primary schools in a village of 500 people. What an absolute treat, eh? And that allowed us as small children to be segregated by religion and taught separately as Protestants and Catholics how to be British or Irish. But thankfully, when it came to the most important lesson in life, we were all taught the same thing. That Protestants' eyes weren't as close together as Catholics' eyes, and that made Protestants more trustworthy. Now, some of you listeners might think that's the most ludicrous piece of batshit nonsense you have ever heard, but you would be wrong, because those of us born in Northern Ireland know that that's a scientific fact. Sometimes it was tricky to tell how far apart people's eyes actually were back in the 70s and 80s, especially if someone had a lazy eye and wore those NHS glasses with one opaque lens. Our family also had 2 TV aerials. Anyone remember that? Protestants, no idea what I'm talking about. Two TV aerials. One for British TV, one for Irish TV, with a little switch under the telly to swap them over. On Friday nights, we used to watch Brucey playing his cards right on ITV, and then I'd have to crawl under the telly like a human remote control and flick over to RTE for my ma and dad to watch Gay Byrne. For those of you who don't know, Gay Byrne was a chat show, not a sex injury. Being TV British or TV Irish looked fun, but it didn't look much like the British or Irish lives that we were leading in County Down. In other ways, though, we were ahead of our time. We had The Masked Singer years before it was a TV show. Someone would come out of a pub toilet in a balaclava, sing an Irish rebel song, and then pass the tin around for the IRA. The rules were different to the TV show because the most important thing in Northern Ireland was to never guess who it was. I know who that is. No, you don't, Davina. You definitely don't know who that is. Och, I do. I'd recognise that voice anywhere. Sure, that's Seamus Murphy's eldest fella. Take it off. Take it off. Shut up, Davina. Would you shut up? People sometimes ask, was it dangerous growing up in Northern Ireland? What do we think, audience? Was it dangerous? No. Not dangerous? I mean, as a kid, growing up here, danger was all around. We just didn't know. I was taught by the Christian Brothers, the military wing of the Catholic Church. And we didn't yet know that their motto was, okay, so a few kids got fiddled with, didn't most of you get a decent education? We didn't have PlayStations or Grand Theft Auto. We had joyriding and kneecapping. A game where you only had one life instead of 3, which meant it was much trickier to make it to the next level. I realised we were different from the English. when my dad locked the keys in the car on holiday in Blackpool in 1979. We'd just been to see Cannon and Ball on the North Pier with Roger de Courcy and Nookie Bear. When my mum realised the keys were locked inside, she wanted to leave the car and get a locksmith out the next morning. But my dad was having none of it. "For Christ's sake, Mary, if we leave it here tonight, they'll blow it up." Thankfully, the police soon arrived, as a helpful passerby had noticed our Northern Ireland number plate and phoned 999 to say he'd just overheard a man with a thick Irish accent say, "Let's leave it here the night and blow it up." It took about an hour to convince the police that we'd come for a fortnight self-catering in Lytham St Anne's, not 20 years in Strangeways. My dad already knew we were different, that our normal wasn't everyone else's normal. When I was 16, I found out for myself when masked gunmen burst into my dad's office and shot him dead. I knew it wasn't normal, but in 1980s Northern Ireland, I also knew it wasn't special. All our friends and neighbours hugged us tight and said they were so sorry, but none of them said they couldn't believe it. No one knew how we'd gotten here, and no one knew how to escape. We were like frogs being slow-boiled in the worst kind of nationalism, and by the time we realised, it was too late. After my dad was killed, I wondered why we couldn't be more sane, like English people, or more fun, like proper Irish people. Even though we'd been told we were Irish, the rest of Ireland looked on us differently. I think it was because up north we murdered people, whereas down south they just wrote songs about murdering people. British people didn't see us as British either. I remember years later being in a friend's house in London whose family were quite posh, and the Reverend Ian Paisley came on the news. I'll never forget her dad saying, "Paddy, would you be an absolute darling and turn that frightful Irish off?" At which point I did turn that frightful Irish man off. And then I started to feel sorry for Reverend Paisley that a lifetime of shouting his Britishness from the rooftops hadn't been heard in Pimlico. When peace finally arrived here in Northern Ireland, we didn't know what to do with ourselves. The Good Friday Agreement meant that for the first time in 100 years, we didn't have to choose one identity. We could be British, Irish, both, or neither. We were non-binary before the term even existed. In Northern Ireland, you could at last be whatever you wanted to be, apart from gay and hoping to get married. We let all the killers out of jail, and as a reward for that, some of those killers went into government and ran the country. Hang on, that can't be right, can it? Some people were outraged, purely on principle. But people with principles don't make peace. Tony Blair and Bill Clinton make peace. Oh, and a woman called Mo, who told Ian Paisley to piss off, threatened to headbutt Gerry Adams, called Martin McGuinness babe, and whose favourite joke was, "What do toilets, birthdays and clitorises have in common? Men miss them." And I miss her. We all had to give ground, suck it up, compromise. The Queen shook hands with Martin McGuinness, which horrified some people. I can't believe he's shaking her hand after all she's done. Some saw it the other way. Isn't it awful that the Queen has to meet someone so awful? Personally, I think with all the money the Queen has, she should have to meet someone awful every week. And now Boris Johnson is Prime Minister, she does. And we didn't just get peace. We got congratulated for making peace, which was much more important deep down, wasn't it? We were feted around the world for not murdering people anymore. Haven't you done great? You're an absolute credit to yourselves. Would you like to come to the White House and meet the president? We'd finally freed ourselves by letting go ever so slightly of the binary nationality that had trapped us. We'd found some common ground and stumbled into the daylight together. Now, I know some of you listening to me already think you know where this is going, that Northern Ireland was sailing into the sunset until Brexit ruined it for us. But that's not what I'm saying, because Northern Ireland doesn't need Brexit to ruin things. We're more than capable of ruining it for ourselves. Thank you very much. To be honest, Brexit has been bittersweet for us here. It's been the political equivalent of an England World Cup campaign, except we don't get to laugh at the end of it. We actually think it's cute that most of England wants to do its own thing and has decided to think with its heart when it comes to Brexit, and then tell Scotland and Northern Ireland that we have to think with our heads when it comes to the Union. Yes, God forbid us Scots and Irish start thinking with our hearts, because as we all know, our hearts are bigger. Or, as cardiologists prefer to call them, enlarged. You know, before Brexit, we always worried a wee bit about our friends in England. We were concerned for many reasons, but mainly because they didn't have a song that could make the whole country cry. We've got Danny Boy, the Scots of Flower Scotland, the Welsh of Total Eclipse of the Heart. But the English, I mean, Rule Britannia comes close, but only after the people singing it at the last night of the proms are then told how many ships the Royal Navy actually has left. We think it's sad there's never been an English song that stirs the loins. No Auld Lang Syne or Fields of Athenry, nothing to rouse the rabble. We'll meet again. Too slow. God save our gracious Queen. Too dreary. Hitler has only got one ball. Too jaunty. And it's not just that England doesn't have a song that stirs the loins. It's that they were invaded and occupied by Romans for over 400 years and they still don't have a song. If the Roman Empire had made it to Scotland or Ireland and we didn't have at least a dozen bangers about Italians being arseholes, we couldn't look at ourselves in the mirror. But Brexit has shown that English people have finally started to act like the rest of us. Done something spontaneous, showed some emotion, made a spur-of-the-moment decision that has ruined their lives. The type of thing that Welsh and Irish and Scottish people do almost every weekend. On behalf of all Celts, welcome to the club, England. And we understand why so many English people voted for Brexit. We get the fact that you don't want to be governed by laws made in some distant parliament. We understand that Brussels is over 200 miles from London and London is 300 miles from Belfast and 400 from Edinburgh. Hang on, I haven't thought this through. We're also sorry that Northern Ireland has been such a pain in the plums for those of you that just wanted to take back control. All of this could have been avoided if the people who brought us Brexit had just come to the Northern Irish border before the referendum and told us how it would all work. If Nigel Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg had just come to South Armagh, sat down over a pint in Crossmaglen and told the locals how they should take back control of their border. But sadly, these things aren't possible when your Prime Minister cares more about ancient Greece than modern Ireland. If only Socrates had been born in Strabane or Plato in Portrush, maybe things might have been different. Before Brexit, we were always told that the Union was never in doubt. And now, Boris Johnson has guaranteed he'll preserve it at all costs, which of course means that a border poll here in Northern Ireland is now inevitable. And is scheduled to take place just after Scotland have declared independence. Yes, who would have thought that after 800 years of armed Irish resistance that Scotland would come up on the rails and overtake them in the independence marathon? It's almost like if you don't murder the people you want to vote for it, you're in with a shout. Who knew? But that's the Scots for you, so canny. It's still not certain how a United Ireland referendum would turn out, mainly because the two campaigns will be led by the DUP and Sinn Féin, the only people who could possibly persuade you to vote for the other side. The Tories now care so little about the DUP, they're planning to ask us all to come out on their doorsteps on a Thursday night and clap for them. Though, to be fair, the DUP got a better pay rise. None of us here in Northern Ireland take any pleasure in the fact that the Tory party will finally break up Britain by asking Britain to be more British. Well, as you can hear, there are one or two sickos that might take a little bit of pleasure in that. But after what we've been through here, most of us are just sad that so many of you have allowed yourselves to be brainwashed by the world's most successful cult, nationalism. The one belief system left that still makes smart people do stupid things. People who won't kneel at an altar, but who will stand for a flag. These are the same people who laugh at people who believe in horoscopes. But they can't see that nationalism and horoscopes are exactly the same. They're the only two things that would ever make anyone buy the sun. The truth is, no nation is actually superior, yet we're all still happy to attribute single traits to entire nations, especially the nice ones, to ourselves. Apparently the whole of Northern Ireland is very friendly. Do we think that? Yeah. Do we? Of course you do. Of course we think the whole of Northern Ireland is friendly because we've been telling it to ourselves for years. And most people here in Northern Ireland aren't friendlier, they're just nosier. Well, Paddy, how long are you home for? Oh, very good. The wife didn't come with you. Are the youngsters over with you? Wee boys, yes. I'm sure your mommy's awful glad to see them coming back. Oh, it must be very hard for her now. She wouldn't get over to see you much. You were in America for a while, weren't you? What's wrong, Paddy? I'm just being friendly. We nationalise traits that aren't about a country. They're just traits of some people who happen to live in those countries. When I used to live in America, I'd come back here and people would say, "Oh, your man Donald Trump, he's just your typical stupid Yank, isn't he?" But he's not. Donald Trump is a man in his 70s who made a few quid in construction. He cheats at golf, he thinks he's never wrong, and he believes that white people are superior. There's one of those guys in every pub in Ireland. Irish people also say, Boris Johnson, what a bullshitter, but sure, that's the Brits for you. Conveniently forgetting the fact that Boris Johnson is such a bullshitter, he could actually be Irish. And this may seem strange to some of you who aren't from Northern Ireland, but nationality can actually be interchangeable. It's okay to swap it up every now and again. I mean, if I'm travelling around the world, I'm Irish, because chances are it's to a country that Britain's already visited and once pretended it owned. But if there's a job going at the BBC, I'm British, and that way I'm a Northern Irish minority. Not just another white, middle-aged comedian. It's how I got this gig tonight, because thankfully when it comes to BBC comedy, crack lives matter. And so, why are we sending you, the rest of the UK, this postcard tonight? Well, it's because we love you. We don't like you, but we love you. And just so you know, this isn't just a postcard either. It's an intervention from the cousins that you used to think were batshit crazy. We're the members of the family who used to set ourselves on fire, have done time in jail, and once set up a Just Giving page for Charles Manson. But now we're clean and sober and have turned up on your doorstep tonight to tell you that you might need to see someone. We used to think you were sensible and sane, but now we know it's us because of what we've been through. Whenever people from Northern Ireland see Chelsea pensioners in their little red uniforms on the King's Road, just like you, we think they're cute and we know they've been brave. But we don't think they fought them on the beaches. We know they're in their 70s and their 80s, and so they fought them in the bogside. One might even have once pointed a rifle at a small boy from Dundrum on his way to Marks and Spencer's with his mum to pick up a quiche. We're the one part of the UK who can actually remember the war because we lived through one. We realise what we've got to lose in all of this, and we're not going back there. We want to be part of something bigger, and we can't believe that you don't. It was letting go of nationality that helped solve Northern Ireland and allowed us to progress to a place where we can now hate people for who they are as individuals rather than collective groups. But hey, I don't want to be a nag. I promise you this will be the last message I'll send you guys before Boris Johnson fixes everything and builds his bridge, linking an independent Scotland with a united Ireland. We saved this place by letting go a little of who we thought we were, and then discovered maybe we weren't. You should try it. Come on in. The water's lovely. From Dundrum, County Down, Northern Ireland, Ireland, United Kingdom and Europe, I'm Patrick Kielty. Wish you were here. Good night. Okay, so there's only one thing left to do, and that's to try out the new Irish seaboarder here, right in Dundrum Bay. This is a very bad idea. Oh, holy Mary, mother of... We're about 6 feet out into the Irish seaboarder now.